The Mega Man franchise has always followed a clear and effective formula. That structure worked incredibly well for years, sustaining the main series, the X Saga, and a handful of spin-offs. But after so many iterations, the recipe started to show signs of wear. The few attempts at innovation stumbled into questionable decisions, alienating longtime fans and exposing a worrying lack of creativity. That's why I'm bringing some ideas here that could breathe new life into any series within the franchise, pushing for meaningful changes without falling into the trap of thinking that throwing Mega Man into some generic 3D setup is progress. Seriously, keep the pixel art and stick to 2D. Gameplay mechanics, RPG-style attribute system. This mechanic would open the door for a more strategic, less rigid version of Mega Man. Instead of every player controlling the exact same character from start to finish, each one could customize their own build. A more aggressive player might focus on attack and speed. A cautious one could invest in defense and regeneration. And for those who love breaking the system with weird builds and glitchy mechanics, attributes like critical hit chance or dash cooldown speed could add some fun variations. The goal here isn't to turn Mega Man into a tactical RPG, but to add meaningful depth without sacrificing the franchise's fast-paced rhythm. Leveling system. Leveling up and earning XP has never really been part of Mega Man's DNA, but that doesn't mean it wouldn't work. Gaining levels by defeating enemies or completing challenges could create a stronger sense of progression and make exploring levels and defeating side enemies feel more rewarding. This evolution could be subtle and incremental. More damage, longer buster range, faster charge time, or passive abilities like a temporary shield when health is low. The key is to keep it optional and complementary, not essential, to avoid messing with the classic balance of difficulty, temporary, and contextual power-ups. Items that give short-term boosts could add tactical variety without changing the core structure. Imagine walking into a room full of heavy enemies and activating a mode that doubles your damage for 20 seconds, or grabbing an electric core that stuns nearby enemies for a short time. These power-ups could be hidden in secret areas as rewards for exploration, or sold at a steep price in in-game shops. The important thing is that they don't break the game, but instead create brief strategic advantages, more about situational awareness than brute force. Combo system for the buster or special weapons. The shooting mechanic in most Mega Man games is unnecessarily limited. You typically get your standard shot and a charged shot, and that's it. The idea here is to introduce combos and variations within each weapon type. This would reward players who master the combat system with more fluid and dynamic gameplay. Instead of just normal and charged shots, imagine unlocking combos. 2 quick shots followed by a piercing blast, or a dash attack that triggers a melee combo. Special weapons could also have variations if used in specific sequences. It would encourage mechanical mastery and make combat more expressive without losing the precision that defines the series. Hack-and-slash games do this brilliantly. It's time Mega Man borrowed a page from that book. Overload mechanic for special weapons. This would let players push their special weapons beyond their standard limits by activating an overload mode. For example, using the flame shot in Overload could create a massive fire wave that clears the screen, but leaves the weapon disabled for a while. It's a classic risk-reward choice, ideal for boss fights or critical moments. This kind of mechanic would also make players think more carefully about when to use a boss weapon, not just spamming it endlessly, but saving it for high-impact moments. Skill tree for Mega Man. Unlocking abilities. A skill tree system would be a natural next step to expand progression. Instead of automatic upgrades, players could choose what kind of Mega Man they want to build. The tree could be divided into 3 branches: combat, mobility, and survival. Combat might include skills like ricochet shots, mobility could unlock double dashes or mid-air jumps, and survival could offer defensive upgrades or emergency self-repair abilities. This wouldn't replace armor or boss weapons, but complement them, creating more personalization and giving players a real reason to replay the game with a different build. Parallel skill tree for supports like Rush and Beat. Rush and Beat have mostly existed as mascots with limited gameplay impact. Giving them their own skill trees could change that. Rush could be customized to act as an offensive mount, support drone or mobility platform, depending on the player's build. Beat could become an auto defense unit, a hidden item radar, or even a distraction tool against enemies. This would make support characters genuinely useful in combat and exploration, and increase the value of collecting resources or completing side quests to unlock specific upgrades for them. Exploration and stage design. Interactive overworld. Enough with the classic floating menu showing the boss's faces. A semi-open overworld would place the player in a connected and functional world, divided into sectors, but with lateral exploration. NPCs offering small bits of info or challenges. Hidden zones and even subtle hints about the robot masters. It doesn't need to become a full open-world RPG, but a dynamic interconnected hub would add depth, make progression feel more organic and give the story room to breathe between stages. Optional exploratory side stages. These extra levels would act as playgrounds for players to test skills and chase unique rewards. They could feature mini-bosses, tricky platforming segments, environmental puzzles, or challenge rooms with specific restrictions. The key is, they're not mandatory, but always worth it. They would reward curiosity and mastery of the mechanics. Also, they're a great place to hide armor pieces, relics, or even alternate versions of classic weapons. Metroidvania structure in select maps. This doesn't require Mega Man to change its DNA, just to adapt a little. Some stages could be more open, with alternate routes and areas only accessible after unlocking certain skills or upgrades. That would add meaningful backtracking and replay value. Rewards could include rare upgrades, shortcut paths, new boss encounters, or even narrative events. The goal is to make players think about how to use what they've earned, not just push forward blindly. Random events in completed stages. Replaying stages wouldn't have to be purely mechanical anymore. Imagine going back to a level and being ambushed by a new enemy type, or finding an ally that needs help. These micro-variations would make the world feel alive and reactive, and encourage players to return to earlier stages for more than just repetition. It would reinforce the idea that Mega Man's universe is evolving in response to the player's actions. Precision challenges and puzzles. These would be short, optional sections within stages that test mastery of timing, movement, or creative weapon use. Some might be purely technical, like pixel-perfect dashes between spikes. Others more logical, like triggering mechanisms in the correct order. Besides varying the game's pace, they'd test different skills outside of combat. Rewards, power-ups, rare items, or even access to new routes. Relic Hunter mode. Adding ancient relics from Mega Man's lore as hidden collectibles would create a stronger connection to the franchise's legacy. These could contain background info on characters, logs about the earliest robot models, or just visual tributes to the original games. Not only would this feed longtime fans with more lore, it would also reward exploration and reinforce the feeling of continuity across the series. Unlockable alternative traversal modes. Movement upgrades like wall running, temporary air dashing, or a magnetic grappling hook would unlock as you progress, allowing access to secret areas and hidden stages. Similar to how boss weapons unlock secrets in classic stages, these traversal tools would open up entire new areas and paths. It's about evolving the map design without breaking it. New mobility, new possibilities. Risk-reward economy within stages. For those looking for real challenge, the game could offer greater rewards for completing levels under stricter conditions. Beating a stage without sub-tanks, without taking damage, or without using the boss weapon, for example. This adds a strategic layer and provides an optional difficulty spike without inflating enemy stats. Rewards could range from rare upgrades and alternate visuals to exclusive narrative content. Challenge runs and performance ranking system. Each stage could score the player's performance, tracking time, accuracy, damage taken, and exploration. That opens the door to time trials, specific runs, like Buster Only, and speedrun modes with rankings. Clearing all stages with top ranks could unlock bonus content like secret bosses, new weapons, or alternate endings. Completing the game under specific criteria could even unlock content for new playthroughs. It's a direct reward for mastery, like S+ ranks in Resident Evil games, adding true replay value to the experience. Bosses and encounters. Bosses with more personality, less visual diarrhea. Classic robot masters were iconic because of their simplicity. You'd look at Cutman or Quickman and instantly get the concept. Today, many bosses suffer from over-design. Flashing lights, overlapping parts, messy silhouettes, excessive animations. The result? Visual noise and forgettable fights. The solution is functional design, visuals that communicate gameplay. A boss based on sound doesn't need to look like a futuristic anime DJ. He could be subtle, shadowy, and his fight could revolve around rhythm, vibration of shots, or even strategic silences. The boss's personality should emerge from mechanics and cohesive design, not from exaggerated aesthetics. This isn't even about inventing something new, it's about returning to what worked. Localized damage system for bosses. This mechanic would add tactical depth by letting you target specific parts of a boss to affect their behavior. Break an arm and you disable a certain attack. Damage a leg and you slow them down. Hit the visor and disorient them temporarily. This breaks away from the tired find the weakness and spam it formula, requiring pattern recognition and precise execution. It also creates room for different strategies based on the weapon used. In fact, this could even be applied to the player character as well. Weak point exposure system. On top of localized damage, bosses could have weak points that are only exposed during certain actions. A core that opens when attacking, a vulnerable gear shown mid-jump, or a shield generator revealed after a hit streak. This demands observation and patience, rewarding players who study enemy behavior instead of just unloading shots mindlessly. Rare elite enemies. Optional mini-bosses that spawn randomly or hide in secret spots. Visually distinct, tougher, and with unique patterns, defeating them would yield valuable upgrades or alternate weapons. These would feel more like secret bosses than the typical mid-stage sub-bosses. They could also have their own lore, like failed Robot Master prototypes or corrupted versions of old models, adding narrative flavor and gameplay depth. Inverted boss rush. Time to flip the script. Instead of facing the Robot Masters in sequence, you'd face AI-controlled Mega Men that use the exact weapons you've collected throughout the game. It would be a final test of adaptation and reflexes, forcing players to deal with the very tools they relied on. It also serves as a clever commentary on weapon over-reliance, now that same arsenal is being used against you. A sharp way to close the gameplay loop. Unlockable memory fragments from Robot Masters. After defeating a boss, you could unlock memories that reveal parts of their backstory, who created them, what their original purpose was, how they were corrupted. These fragments could appear as short animations or voice logs from Dr. Light, Wily, Sigma, or Cossack. It adds emotional weight to the journey and gives the enemy gallery a stronger narrative role. Bosses stop being just obstacles and start becoming pieces of a much larger world. Bosses with multiple outcomes. How you beat a boss could influence what happens next. If you win using only the Buster instead of their weakness, you might unlock a redemption scene. If you defeat them too quickly, you could miss a crucial piece of information. Delay too long, and the boss could activate self-destruction, erasing clues or access to a hidden stage. This encourages experimentation and rewards different playstyles, making each combat choice carry real consequences. Auxiliary mechanics, shops. While shops have appeared in a decent number of Mega Man games, they've always felt underused. A strategically curated shop could change everything. Imagine starting a stage and having to choose between a module that reduces damage in toxic areas or a chip that increases your air dash range. Even better, what about temporary builds tailored for specific missions? A light armor for full mobility, or a high offense suit with minimal defense? The idea isn't to reinvent the wheel, just to take what already exists and give it actual strategic weight. Removable parts. Think of this as a modular extension of the armor system, not a replacement. Players could find, buy, or earn removable parts that tweak specific traits. An enemy vision sensor, reduced shot recoil, or a thruster for triple jump, for example. This would allow for finer customization and reward exploration, without breaking the game's core progression. It's not about replacing the classic X-Series armor upgrades, but adding complementary mechanics that enrich the gameplay loop. Simple crafting system. Collecting parts from defeated enemies and using them to craft upgrades would finally give non-boss combat some meaningful purpose. Sub-tanks, support chips, buster mods, or even purely cosmetic items, like alternate costumes, could be crafted from loot. The idea isn't to turn Mega Man into a grind fest, but to establish a natural reward loop. You beat a tough enemy, score a rare part, and choose how to use it. It gives repetition a purpose and mastery of levels a payoff. Base or HQ evolution. The player's base, whether it's Dr. Light's lab or the Resistance HQ, could evolve throughout the game. It might start off empty and broken down, but gradually fill up with NPCs, activate machines, and open new areas. More than just aesthetics, this would give a tangible sense of progress. NPC interactions could reveal lore, give hints about levels, or even unlock side quests. It would become a place of rest, story building, and world expansion all at once. Honestly, it would remind me a lot of a game I hate to love, the original Digimon World. Day-night cycles or weather systems. Dynamic time and weather changes in stages would be a breath of fresh air. A nighttime fog could hide enemies or block visual paths. An electrical storm might activate or shut down parts of the environment. A desert area could be hit with sandstorms that reduce visibility. This adds natural, unscripted variation to level design. Even better, it encourages purposeful replayability. Players would know that revisiting a stage at a different time or under different weather could unlock new routes, reveal rare enemies, or make certain challenges more manageable. Narrative and immersion. Light reputation or moral choice system. The Mega Man universe has always held untapped philosophical potential. Questions of free will, obsolescence, and ethical conflict between humans and machines. Introducing light decisions throughout the campaign, like helping a runaway robot or reporting its location, could lead to subtle consequences. Unlocking shortcuts, gaining exclusive items, or changing future dialogue. It's not about creating complex branching endings, but about acknowledging the player's actions in meaningful ways. A more empathetic Mega Man might gain access to hidden areas, while a pragmatic player might unlock more aggressive combat tools. Small symbolic weight, big impact on immersion. More engaging storytelling. The series has tried to tell its story without excessive text. X4's animated cutscenes come to mind, but rarely with depth or fluidity. Most of the time, the story dumps are so out of place and lifeless that I'd skip through all the dialogue. The goal here is to stop the game from drowning in walls of text, and instead, weave narrative into gameplay. That means using tight micro cutscenes, playable flashback sequences, or brief in-world interactions between Mega Man and other characters. Don't just say the city was attacked, show it through the setting and affected NPCs. Don't save the villain for the final stage, have them taunt you at key moments. The secret is simple: tell less, show more, and use the game's own language to do it. Faction reputation system among robot groups. Expanding on the idea of a connected world, robot factions could have their own goals. Resistance cells, neutral groups, villain-aligned, and they would react to the player's behavior. Helping one might lower shop prices, unlock exclusive upgrades, or even grant assistance during battles. Betrayal, on the other hand, could lead to ambushes or tougher level paths. It gives the world dynamic feedback and turns each stage into something with consequences beyond the usual gameplay loop. Even better, your reputation could change not just through explicit choices, but also your in-game behavior, like saving or destroying certain targets. Bosses with real narrative purpose. Enough with robot masters that exist just for the sake of it. Each boss should serve a concrete narrative function. One might control energy distribution, another could be protecting confidential data, a third could guard the enemy's stronghold. This would give the bosses weight and purpose, rather than just being a themed gatekeeper with a new weapon as a reward. Even better, defeating bosses in different orders could affect the game's flow. A stage could be harder if its security master is still active, or sabotaged if another boss has already been defeated. Mega Man X1 flirted with this idea, but never fully committed. A proper implementation would add strategic depth to stage order, and open the door to alternate routes, story outcomes, and versioned levels, all while making bosses part of the world, not just an obstacle. Rescue or sabotage missions. These side missions would add tension and variety to the game's rhythm. Imagine an alarm sounding at HQ. A captured ally needs rescuing. There's a time limit, and failure could mean losing upgrades, allies, or having a future stage become significantly harder. On the other hand, success might unlock new paths, gameplay tools, or story events. It's a way to add urgency and consequence to Mega Man's world, something sorely missing in most entries. These are our suggestions to improve the franchise without changing the formula that made Mega Man great in the first place, but with fresh, meaningful innovations. Did you enjoy the list? Got your own ideas? Let us know in the comments, and maybe we'll build a part 2 with your suggestions. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.